Um, well, first of all, good morning, everyone. It's good to see you.
Morning.
Good morning.
Um, Glad you can join us this morning before the CBF General Assembly begins in the next hour. And welcome to your 5,257th Zoom meeting. Before I introduce our two presenters and pass the baton off to them, I want to give a few announcements and instructions. First, this session's being recorded so that it's available for everyone, including those who couldn't participate right now and listen in. Secondly, if you ever have any questions during the two presentations, you can either submit those in the chat box, and I'll make note of those, write them down, and if there's time at the end, we'll do some question and answer time. If there isn't time, which is likely, then the questions will be sent to the presenters by email, and I will then let them, sorry, I was going to share something with y'all. I'll email those questions to them and let them answer to everyone in the group. But the way that you can know how to join, if you want to join future Polyphony meetings or have my email, there it is right there, kdameron@kirkwoodbaptist.org. And then I'll make sure my co-host for these meetings, Doug Haney, gets your emails as well. So that way our contact lists are consistent and the same. And then our presenters' contact information, I'll just show that now, and I'll show it at the end too. If you have questions you want to send directly to them that you think about later for follow-up, there's their emails there. And so I think that's all the housekeeping stuff I wanted to share right now with you. Julie Merritt Lee is the spiritual director and writer, and she's formerly the pastor of Providence Baptist Church in Hendersonville, North Carolina for 7 years. And prior to that, Julie did 2-year pastoral residency at Wilshire Baptist Church in Dallas, Texas. And she received her master's in divinity at Baylor University Truett Seminary. And Julie has also completed her spiritual direction certificate at the Hayden Institute in Western North Carolina. Julie's passion is helping people find healing and wholeness through modalities, writing, body movement, spiritual disciplines such as meditation and prayer. Julie's the wife of Michael Lee, who's the chaplain manager for Memorial Hermann Greater Heights Hospital in Houston, and the mother of 2 spunky children, Sophia, age 7, Sage, age 4. And I will take pause. I'll just add this to say, remember them, especially right now, as during this time of this session, this recording, it's spiking the numbers in Houston, similar to the way it was in New York back in March and April. So remember Michael, who's chaplain there at Hospital in Greater Heights, Houston, and for all those in Houston right now. And Terry Taylor, who's going to be our first presenter, is part of the creative team that produces the Growing in Grace Children's Music Curriculum, a faith-based resource for children's music ministries and programs. And he's the founder and director of the Children's Freedom Choir in Nashville, Tennessee, an outreach choir for socially and economically challenged children. And Terry's been managing editor of Growing in Grace Children's Music Curriculum since January 2013, after serving 32 years as minister of music in churches in Tennessee, Georgia, Alabama, and Oklahoma. Terry, I'm going to pass it to you now.
Great. Thank you so much, Kyle, Doug. It's great to be here this morning. I see many longtime friends on the participant list and some new friends, and it's great to be here with everyone this morning. I want to move very quickly through my presentation. As you know, we publish a full spectrum curriculum every fall and every spring. It's really designed for face-to-face teaching. We had a meeting early in April with our CEO, Tom McAfee, who kind of prophetically said we need to consider, because of what's happening with the coronavirus, what's happening financially in churches, we need to consider offering an alternative for churches, a curriculum that will be suited and adaptable for distance learning. And we jumped right on that and created a resource called Keep On Singing. And we really wanted children to truly keep on singing, even if they didn't have opportunities for face-to-face choir. And also a means for choir leaders to maintain the relational dimension of their choir. Children need that continued ongoing contact with a choir leader and as much normalcy as we can bring into their life. So what I want to do quickly is show you the components of the Keep On Singing curriculum. And then I've got a little 7-minute demo sampler that kind of shows a few clips all the way through it. It doesn't seem as long as it sounds. And if you have a couple of pencils handy and can improvise and them as rhythm sticks or have some kind of little shaker or noisemaker, we've got an activity at the very end of that video that I want you to play along with. So I'm going to take over the screen here and yes, here we go. So here is the preschool and elementary. There's a preschool product that's obviously for preschoolers, and then the elementary is grades 1 through 6. So when you order it, here's what you get. This what you're seeing right here. And there's an overview that I'm going to come back to later. And then there's a little clip art package that has JPEGs of different kinds of clip art that you can use in your promotion for the curriculum. Then we have all the song scores, and there's the full score. And we also have a student score, which although every song has a video, you're welcome to share these with the children. And Keep On Singing is also adaptable if you have kind of a hybrid organization where you do some distance learning but also have some face-to-face time with your choir. So there's the songs. We also have a video for each song, kind of like a karaoke video for each one. We have the audio components, the MP3s, both the demo and the track for every song. We have activity videos. These are activities that we've adapted for video that the kids can participate in and have music learning activities remotely. We also have kid pages. These are activity PDFs, and these can be sent to the families, and families can print them, little activity pages. We know of some choirs that actually they print these for the children and deliver them to them or have them mailed to the homes. And we have teaching steps, obviously, for all of those. We also created devotionals. We have 15 devotionals, and every devotional that go with the songs. We've sort of formatted the devotional into 2 parts with the same ratio as a screen, so that if you use these on the screen, you can show the top half and then the bottom half of the devotional, and it'll fill up the screen. For years, we've been doing a thing called multi-print, and that is if you want to print all 15 kid pages, instead of clicking print 15 times, you can click print once and it prints all 15 devotionals, kid pages, even the songs. I want to go back to the overview right quick and open that up. This overview has a cover page. If you decide to print all this, this is a great notebook cover. Then we have a page here that describes the content, everything that's in Keep On Singing. One thing in particular I want to point you to is a hyperlink here. That is a showcase, and if you click on that, it takes you to our website, and it has all 20 devotionals, or I'm sorry, all 20 videos here in one spot. We know that even though a lot of choirs are keeping a Wednesday night slot and doing a Zoom time or something, we know that bandwidth and computers and times and schedules don't always work well. And we designed this so that children could access these videos and these materials anytime. So you could send this link to your families. They could click on the showcase and access and experience any of those videos anytime that they want to. Also, there's a link to each individual song and each individual video. So you can click on any of these if you just want to send an individual link to the home. We also have a little session planner for face-to-face or digital teaching. And of course, the last page that has copyright information and a little spine art that you can use for that. So that is a quick overview. This is the preschool, the elementary. I won't go through it. It has the same components all the way through. So what I want to do now is show you a little sampler of the materials. They're very engaging, very child-friendly, and then we'll have time for a question or two after that's over. Here we go. Get your pencils ready.
Be strong, be strong, be strong in the Lord. Stand in His power, stand in His strength. Be strong, be strong, be strong in the Lord. Trust Him in everything.
1, 2, ready, go. All creatures great, all creatures small, all creatures wonderful, God made them all. Bat, cat, kangaroo, caterpillar, fox, lark, shark, aardvark, salamander, ox. All creatures great, all creatures small. Let the rivers clap and the mountains sing. Shout for joy to the King of Kings. Blow the trumpet, let the harp strum praise. Let the nations know God's power to save. Mi, sol, mi. Sol, la, sol. Sol, la, la. Sol, sol, sol.
Okay, how'd you do? Did you get your pencils out? Okay, good, good. So that's an overview of the curriculum, the components, and then these videos that you can share with the children in any way that suits your ministry best. It's very flexible. You can use this in lots of ways. So if you have any questions about the Keep On Singing curriculum, I think it's $69, and you have permission to reproduce and share these materials with children in your church. If you have any questions, please let me know and be in touch with me, because we're here as a ministry to help you. Kyle, that's really it for my presentation today, unless somebody has a question.
Yeah, we've got a few minutes here at this point. Does anyone have a question that they would like to ask at this time before we pass things on to Julie?
I do. Terry,
Fine.
Yes.
I noticed some of the curriculum was from last semester. Is there going to be some new curriculum in with this, or is it all of last year's?
If you look through the product, you'll see some new things, but it is mostly been because we did it so quickly. We turned this around and we created all these 40 videos in about 6 weeks. We mostly used previous curriculum from that. We contacted children's choir coordinators and had Zoom meetings with them from all around. And we talked about that fact that we're using existing curriculum for some of this. And they said, that's really not a negative, that's a plus. That some of the children may have seen this and know it, and that measure of familiarity would actually be an aid to them. So what we've done, of course, is compiled it all together, and then, of course, created the videos and that sort of thing too. That's a very good question.
Yeah.
But it is mostly from existing material. There are some new things that we created, like that Psalm 98 chant, the solfege things we pulled in new.
Which I can see the benefit of. Those who are school teachers, music teachers could probably speak into this too, that that given that doing familiar material on this side of the pandemic now may help in these situations where we're distanced and we can't teach things as effectively as we did in the classroom. So doing things that they know well and reinforcing the spiritual principles and the musical concepts.
Exactly. The goal is to keep them singing and maintain those relationships. And you will notice in our evaluation that most of these songs are as much caught as taught, and that they're very catchy, and the kids, even if they don't know them, will learn quickly. We also see a benefit if families share in this. These are songs that younger and older siblings and parents can learn and catch on to and sing. And we also see a music advocacy component for families to see just how important music is and what an impact it can have in the children's lives.
Very good. Yeah, excellent points, Terry. And by the way, in the chat box on your side, I've included Terry's email there, and I'll share it again at the end, and as well as my email. That way, if you're not in the Polyphony email list, my list or Doug's, and we'll get that, make sure we've got this same list, let us know. You can email me, and I'll share that later. Terry, thank you. Kudos to you and your team for what you've done in just since May 1 when you started this project. So thank you for your ministry. Julie, we're going to pass things on to you now.
Hey.
Hey.
Hello, everyone. It's hard for me without sort of call and response.
Right.
But I trust that you're present with me, and because we're going to shift gears quite a bit to really sort of some soul searching, deep inner work this morning that I think will be very beneficial, even in just a short amount of time. I wanted to just give a quick biographical information. Besides that, I am a pastor and was a pastor in Hendersonville for 7 years. I also work for a nonprofit currently and have for a while on grief and loss. And I've been a researcher and writer and developer of some curriculum on the acute loss stage in particular after a period of loss. And these are losses that expand, and I'll talk a little bit more about that, beyond just death. Typically there's a lot of material and research around death loss, but this is for every kind of loss that I'm working on with my team. There's 5 of us in this nonprofit. So that's sort of where I'm at now. I'm a mom, I'm a spiritual director, and I have more to say about that too. But I'm just so thankful. I want to start by saying thank you for having me. I know you don't know me, except for I know 3 faces on this call. So thank you for trusting me and inviting me. I want to start first by, if all of us can sort of, I know we don't have a lot of time, so we're not going to do sort of the typical what I do, but if we could just kind of center ourselves in our chair wherever you're at and be, I know in Houston, Texas, where I am, it's raining very steadily and it's gray. I don't know where you are, but if you could just kind of close your eyes and be present to this moment and take a deep breath and exhale so you can hear your own breath. We'll do it again. Fiery Spirit, thank you for the gift of this day, for the power to create, the energy to reflect, and the body to incorporate it all. In the name of the one we pray, Jesus the Christ. Amen. So I want to start by jumping right into loss and grief. I was invited in particular because we are in a period of, obviously, with COVID, and as musicians who have choirs, and I also wanted to say that I'm a long life choir member, and I, as a pastor, was in my church choir. So that was very important to me. And I stood there with my robe on, my pastor robe, and sang, and definitely feel the power of the choral rhythmic connection. And so I speak as someone who loves music and have been trained in music as well. So jumping into grief and loss, the power of this moment is and really the strength that occurs is when we name the losses that we're going through. And I think as your group, Polyphony, has gathered, as I understand, every other week, part of the strengthening of your collegiality and connection has been through naming your losses together and using that time. And this is a great way to do that. And the more that we can name all of the specific losses that we're having, the more that we can move them out of ourselves. And I'm going to speak to that in a minute. And so, as we know, biblically, the naming is so important. And so when we can put a name on the grief and loss that we feel, it's extremely helpful. And I want us to move from just, I've lost congregational singing, or I've lost conducting my choir. I want you to move deeper in thinking, what other primal losses do you feel? And by that, I mean taking a layer off. And for some, I've even heard people say, I've lost a part of my being without my choir. This is a sense, and I would call this a primal loss of identity. It's more than just a piece of your job, but it is a primal loss for you, which is why it feels so huge, because it is a part of who you are. And so I want to encourage us to do some spiritual practices and body practices that encourage listening to ourselves. I just read a whole book on listening, and it's the one mode of communication not taught in schools. We have speech, and there's all kinds of, orations and rhetoric, and we really emphasize all of those forms of communication. And the only one not taught in public schools typically is listening, the art of listening. And so really what I'm about today is trying to teach us to listen to ourself, our body, and our soul. So those are my two main points. I'm going to start with the body. And what this time is affording us is hopefully a time to listen, and listen well, and ask this question: what's beneath the surface of consciousness? What is beneath the surface of consciousness? And we can't really do that until we're in periods like this, where everything is sort of stripped away. And so in a sense, it is a gift, if we can see it that way. And I want us to listen to our body. I'm going to teach you one practice. This is a great statement. Our body does not lie. We're really good at self-deception and lying to ourselves, but the body doesn't lie. Where you hold your tension, if you get headaches, the body will tell us where we're holding our grief and our loss. And one of the things I want to teach you is called, and some of you may already know this, as a body scan. A body scan is a great way, before you pray, if you have already spiritual practices of praying, a body scan is simply sitting or lying in place, and start with the top of your head after getting comfortable, taking a few breaths, and you literally kind of scan intentionally on each part of your body, going down and seeing and asking what's emerging. What do you feel? What do you notice? And so from that, you'll get a sense of where what's tense. Is it in your lower back? A lot of people hold their tension in their back. A lot carry it in their gut. Some people, like I said, hold it sort of in their shoulders and get or have these migraines. If you've seen in the news, migraines are at an all-time high. There's no surprise in that. And so I want to just do one little teaching here, which in some of our, my favorite book of last year that I read was The Body Keeps the Score. And some of you may have read it. It's a fabulous book. It is the premier on PTSD research about how our body holds the story of trauma. And so, as you know, and this is very brief, I'll just share, but in a moment of trauma, the fight or flight response, the adrenaline and cortisol that's kicked out, normally has an opportunity to release itself. You can fight or flight or flee. But when in a moment of trauma, you're unable, you freeze, and that cortisol and adrenaline gets stuck and trapped inside of us. And so that is where your body keeps and holds that and wreaks havoc months and years. And they do research with veterans, and they've decided, as much as talk therapy is great, and I'm a huge proponent for therapy, done it 20 years myself. If you've ever been through a lot of therapy and you're like, things haven't shifted very much for me, I highly recommend body work, because especially with trauma, they've noted that the body needs a way to move out this energy that was stored and never been able to. And so a lot of these practices I'm going to teach you this morning are recalibrating what's called the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve is the longest cranial nerve from your brainstem to your abdomen. And when we recalibrate it and stimulate it with some of these body practices, it's actually going to recalibrate that parasympathetic system and actually strengthen your prefrontal cortex. So it's really, these are so important. And I highly recommend doing some of these body movements, and they're easy to do. And so I hope that you hear me say that grief and loss that we're all experiencing is so important. And not only do we need to be talking about it, but we need to be moving it out. And for people like you who are so attuned to rhythm and the right brain anyway with music, this shouldn't be, I don't think this is too much of a stretch. And so some of the, I'm just going to list them off, some of the rhythm, because as I thought about what one of y'all's losses might be, I thought one of the biggest losses in choral work, yes, it's connection and it's soul work that you do, but it's also the rhythmic body piece. And that rhythmic piece that's embodied may not be something that has been talked about as much as loss of connection in your family, which is choir. But actually what they say in The Body Keeps the Score is that even choir work is rhythmic work that recalibrates that vagus nerve. And since that piece is missing, let me suggest some other rhythmic activities that you and others can do. Anything, how many of you, I saw somebody had a cat in the picture, but when a dog has trauma, do you know what a dog does immediately? It shakes. And do you see your dog in the morning? They shake. They have the ability to shake. And that is a very primal way of releasing that tension. So so you can shake in the morning, your spouse or partner or whoever might get a kick out of you shaking. But some other helpful ways might be and dribbling, any sort of rhythmic dribbling. So that can be done, pickleball, racquetball, basketball, kayaking, any sort of rhythmic dancing. Drumming is a huge one. I was so glad that I was doing this and Terry saying, because I have some energy I need to move out this morning. So, any sort of rhythmic drumming is huge. And that could be done through Zoom too. Kickboxing, any sort of martial arts, these are great rhythmic activities. Chanting is a huge one. And jump roping, and then of course any sort of brisk walking or running. So all of those are rhythmic recalibrating that vagus nerve, helping move out that traumatic energy that we've all experienced in these last few months. So those are some good body ways to move it out. And when I meet with my spiritual directees, most of the time when they are feeling low or saying that their soul is not being attuned to, a lot of times in the same breath, they're also saying, my body just isn't moving. And so I work a lot with body movement. And you know, for example, even, okay, you're going to see, here we go here. Here's my body. You're even, for the dancing, even just kind of moving rhythmically, like getting up, pushing it out, any kind of activity that feels natural. And, you know, as I thought about this session, I kept thinking, y'all are very bright and capable, and you know many spiritual practices. It's not a matter of not knowing a lot of these things. It's sort of overcoming the inertia. And so I'm hoping that I can give you some new ones so that you can find one that doesn't feel like work to you, but really speaks to you. So I'm going to give you another list as you, some homework to listen first to your body, and then I want you to listen to your soul. Do some of that deep listening that can only happen when we actually cut off the noise and all of the clamor and attentions that are trying to get us to so distracted. And so this time of meditative silence, I want you to do some deep listening and ask questions of your soul of where, at what I call and what I ask in my directees is, what's stirring in your soul? Where do you feel stuck? And usually those two questions can start getting folks to talk and verbally process. And I want to share a screen and of some of this. Oh my word, it's 9:40. See, I'm not even halfway, but it's okay because we've got our drumsticks and you're going to be moving this out. Let me share my screen real quick. Some spiritual practices. If I can, let's see what I've got here on my screen. Yeah, here they are, spiritual practices. So this is why I don't have time to give you examples of all of these, but see, you have my email and I would love to be helpful to you. I feel like this is my season to help people. Just look at this list, everything from walking a labyrinth. You can create your own labyrinth, by the way. You can do a finger labyrinth. So these are accessible even in these times. Meeting with the spiritual director. I wish I had time to talk about that. Breath prayer is so huge. And for you choir folks who are so attuned to your breath, I hope that you will really take advantage of a breath prayer. And again, if you want more information on these, I can give you. The Yahweh prayer is very powerful. For those of you who like to create these, I've got some I make a lot of prayer beads. I'd love to make you some. If you send me your name, I'll make you some prayer beads and I can show you how to make your own. This body prayer of surrender. Oh my goodness. I think the key piece of this age that we're in, we are called to kenosis, the Philippians 2, giving over of ourself, this emptying that Jesus himself emptied himself. This is our spiritual work, is to kenos, to empty. And so this body prayer of surrender, to take a time each day to empty of ourselves, is huge. And then you can see here everything from collage to fasting. Some of these are more familiar to you. I'm going to move real quick, since I have like 2 minutes, to this ritual. This is setting an intention for the day. I'm sure many of you are familiar with this, but one of the ones that I find every day most important is picking something that you do every day under this how-to. For me, it's washing my face. If you don't wash your face, maybe you brush your teeth. One of these things that maybe you do. Pick that, and then go to number 2 and pick one of these phrases or create your own. For me, I got this from Bert Burleson at Dayspring Baptist. Remember who you are, and remember whose you are. I say that every day when I wash my face. It's just now so ingrained, and it's just a great way to set the intention for the day. I always say the best rituals, let me go back to stop sharing. I always say the best rituals are the ones you create. And I want to say part of why we're in such a period of grieving is because we have lost our rituals. And I'm a huge believer in ritual. And we have lost those. And so we have to create new ones that hold meaning. We are meaning makers. And so how do we create embodied meaning making practices? Well, I could give you a whole list like I did, but the ones that are most important will be ones that resonate with you and your spirit. So I'd love, feel free to email if you want to figure out something that resonates. But in closing, let me just say, I really feel led to say this, which is, I know this period just feels like surreal in so many ways, and in many ways it does feel out of body, which is why I'm trying to encourage you to get in your body. But one of the things that my spiritual director said to me recently is, Julie, what a time if you can focus to realize this is not a time to see how productive you are. This is not the time to focus out in the future, but this is a time to recognize as a gift that this is a wilderness, but the wilderness can be good too. The wilderness has gifts to be unveiled if we will allow ourselves to see them. And for me, what it's doing, it's stripping away all of the excess and helping me center into what really matters, my essence. It's not about what I produce, how many wonderful things I say or write. It's about the opportunity to ask, who am I? What's important to me? That's where where does my value come from? And I feel like this season of life is an opportunity to ask those questions, that maybe we can see our value not in what we produce or create as musicians or pastors or whoever, but to realize what our real essence is, and use this time to drill down, to mine in and see those truths. And so I encourage that. And like I said, there's just not enough time, but I will just encourage, let this be a time for inner work right now, since so much is going on. Let this be a time for inner work, and the time will come for outer work. So I want to close with that and saying thank you.
Julie, thank you so much. A lot there. And I know that you've got more that you could share. And we would like to, Doug and I were just having a little quick chat. We'd like to invite you back in the near future to share more with us. And we'll,
Sure.
Thank you. And we'll get that. Well, I'll share that in a moment, these future dates, and we'll figure out when to schedule you next. And Julie and Terry, thank you so much for your contributions to this meeting and outside of this meeting, everything that you're doing. Your ministries are impacting a lot of people, I know, and thank you for sharing this time with us today and letting us know more of how to move forward in practical ways for children's choirs and for ourselves, and as we lead others during this time as spiritual directors in the midst of our choirs and our congregations. So we have to take care of ourselves first, obviously, before we can take care of others. So I'm going to share just some information real quick before we depart here, gang. Give me a moment, just make sure I'm some future Polyphony dates on Zoom here. We're going to do them Thursdays at 11 Eastern, 10 Central, we did these an hour earlier today, just in light of the CBF General Assembly starting soon. We're gonna convene again in 2 weeks, July 9th, and then again July 23rd. Take a break in August. I guess I should blow this up a little bit more. There you go. Take a break in August, and then resume in September after Labor Day on September 10th and 24th. Doug and I are just of the same mind that we're just enjoy being able to connect with everyone and find it meaningful just to stay connected during this time with all of you, to learn from each other, to encourage each other. My email is there, so that you can, if you're not been receiving email updates from me, you can get that written down and send me an email, and I'll make sure Doug has your information as well, and we'll keep you posted on what's happening. And then just remember that the CBF General Assembly begins shortly. And if you've already registered, it's too late to register, but for those who registered, there's just a reminder of what you need to, how you need to log on shortly. Fellowship is the password. Your email is your login name, whatever email you entered to register. Thank you again, everyone. I share now this benediction, and we'll end the meeting. Now to him who is able to do immeasurably more than all we ask or imagine, according to his power that is at work within us, to God be the glory in the church and in Christ Jesus throughout all generations, forever and ever. Amen. Peace of Christ.